Hi, my name is Sylvia Spruck-Wrigley, and I'm talking to you today about Star Trek, Old and New. To consider the representation of old age and aging in Star Trek, you just need to watch the original pilot episode. In it, we discover that the beautiful blonde 18-year-old Vina is, in truth, old and ugly. Everyone agrees that she couldn't possibly live without her illusion of youth and beauty. And so she's abandoned to a Telosian zoo to continue her lonely but sexually attractive existence. The pilot was rejected for being too cerebral, but the footage was reused in a later episode in which the disabled Captain Pike is forcibly taken to the same planet so that he can share her illusion. The moral of the story seems to be that life is not worth living when you are old or infirm or losing mobility. Better to become a zoo exhibit so that you can spend your days with a virtual 18-year-old blonde. Roddenberry's Federation is described as a human utopia. Pollution and poverty have been eliminated, the human lifespan has been extended, and many of the primary causes of disability and decline have been eradicated. You'd think that there'd be episodes exploring the natural effects of human aging without the bowed backs, arthritis, and weak lungs caused by socially produced diseases. But in fact, the opposite is true. Across the franchise, there are over a dozen episodes which feature rapid or sudden aging, which is demonstrated with the sudden appearance of white hair, wrinkles, and cognitive failure. In the deadly years, the crew of the Enterprise start aging at a rate of 30 years a day, and they begin to show symptoms of hearing loss, advanced arthritis, and dementia within the hour. Kirk loses the ability to command, becoming confused and emotionally incontinent as he reaches his mid-60s. Spock warns that soon they will be little better than mental vegetables. 30 years later, in the Voyager's scientific method, Chakotay suffers from rapid aging caused by hyperstimulation of his metabolism. He becomes palsied and loses his hair before becoming gaunt and wrinkled, complaining to Neelix that he's losing his eyesight, has chronic arthritis in his fingers, and he can barely walk. Rapid aging is frequently inflicted as a threat against women who react with terror at visions of white hair and wrinkles. In only one of these rapid aging episodes is there any interrogation of the blatant ageism. When Julian Bashir complains about turning 30 in Distant Voices in DS9, he rapidly ages to 100 before being returned to his natural age. In this single episode, we see an acknowledgement of the cultural relativism driving the ageism inherent in all of these storylines. When Elam Garak, expressing surprise that humans treat aging as a negative experience, says, "On Cardassia, advanced age is seen as a sign of power and dignity. Not so in the Federation." There are many instances of paradise in space, but generally speaking, these places are populated by young people, preferably with blonde hair. We see this in the wild partying of the Naked Time, and even in The Naked Now, where the show deals really nervously with the idea of Picard under the influence. We see it in the attractive blonde-haired Edo of Justice and the ageless inhabitants of Gamma Trianguli 6. The festivals of debauchery in Return of the Archon specifically excludes old men, and for reasons unexplained, there are no old women at all. We are simply meant to accept that space is for the young, and old people need to get out of the way. Even when becoming old is sudden, in the rapid aging sequence, The Deadly Years, Mr. and Mrs. Roberts die almost immediately of old age. Bizarrely, the pretty Lieutenant Arlene Galway, despite being the youngest crew member afflicted, also dies in Kirk's arms, also of old age. This is a recurring trope in Star Trek. Old people die. Old people dying is as prevalent as the red shirt syndrome. If you're over 60 and you appear in a guest slot of a Star Trek episode, you will likely be dead before the episode is over. And let's remember that the human lifespan is meant to be much extended, and McCoy was still in active service at age 137. Star Trek often looks for conflict outside of the ship with a mystery for the crew to solve. With disturbing frequency, the only old character introduced in the episode will end up as the murder victim. It's quite off-putting just how easily the aged keel over dead and how easy it is to spot which character will die next. The Next Generation pushes this trope a little bit further. 3 episodes tackle the question of illicit rejuvenation. In all 3, the character, male, is dead at the end of the episode, although admittedly one dies of young age rather than old. This trend continues to current-day Star Trek. When Discovery launched in 2017, Captain Philippa Georgiou was the first instance of the captain of the ship at the center of the show, played by an over 50 actress. Patrick Stewart was only 46 when he first played the part of Jean-Luc Picard. True to the trope of old people die, Captain Georgiou is killed in the pilot, just to reappear as a mirror universe character, Emperor Georgiou. In order to bypass the stereotypes of old age, she must be removed not just from Starfleet, but from the human race. Emperor Georgiou is Terran, from a mirror universe where everything, including getting old, is done just a little bit differently. This breaking of stereotypes leads many to ask me if Georgiou can really be considered old. But the same people consistently reference Lwaxana Troi as an example of an old woman in Star Trek, despite the fact that both women are played by 55-year-old actresses, and Lwaxana, a betazoid, has a normal pregnancy 8 years later. If either of the characters is considered to be in her prime, then it should be Lwaxana. Star Trek is known for its use of aliens to allow us to look at social issues, with far-off worlds used to consider such politically sensitive subjects such as socialism, poverty, and prejudice. And Star Trek crews over the decades show a great increase in diversity, including an acceptance of a much broader range of races in Starfleet. However, this same diversity is used to justify relying on aliens to represent old age and experience. Characters over 50 can be cast in young bodies or have their wrinkles hidden under special effects without pesky old people marring the flight deck. To be fair, age and experience as assets are at least referenced in every series in the franchise. If you're Vulcan, for example, or a symbiote, or even a Klingon, in the Star Trek universe, surviving to a respectable age is depicted as an otherly trait, in contrast to the human ideals of youth and virility. Last year, the 7th Star Trek series, Picard, was launched. Jean-Luc Picard is in his 90s, played by Patrick Stewart at 79. The cast from The Next Generation are only on the sidelines, but they're also depicted as having happy and youthful lives in their 60s and 70s. Picard also has a specific and named terminal neurological disease. This gives him a real risk of mental decline, rather than a hand-wavy explanation that one becomes a mental vegetable as a direct result of old age. So, it's particularly frustrating to find that the old tropes are still in force. Picard almost lives through the first season, but then dies in the final episode, only to be resurrected in an android body. Picard is told that his new body does not give him any additional strength or vitality. It has a best before date. His death remains inevitable. The only difference then is that he's no longer human. It is frustrating that in both of the modern series, the central characters over 50 have been resurrected as something new. Even as the Federation crews have become more diverse, representation of a healthy and successful old age belongs to the outsiders, as if youth, like emotion, is at the heart of human existence. This repeated decision underscores the deep-seated belief that old people don't belong at the center of a space adventure. They must be represented as the other in order to hold that position. Modern Star Trek remains bogged down by the ageist message that in order to defeat the stereotypes of old age, you must give up your humanity. Thank you.